This is a con that we in this England we have to deal with. Hey guys, my Senny, welcome back to Chit Chat with Chip, where I talk about all things to do with money, to do with career, to do with sewing, and to do with general lifestyle eventually at some point when we can get outside. But in this video, I'm going to be talking about credit scores. Yes, you read the title right. I paid off a £2,000 debt and my credit score dropped. What the hell? So yeah, I'm gonna go right into it, but before I do that, please make sure that you like the video, make sure you share, especially with them lot that are starting uni this year or have just started uni, because listen, when I was 19, 18, I didn't know anything about credit cards, about credit score. I didn't even know what a credit score was. So I feel like we need to start educating people because, you know, we're being taken for fools out here. I didn't know what any of that was. So I thought I would make this video just to make people a little bit younger than me be a little bit more aware about how having a credit card or having a credit score can affect you in the future. Please remember, I am not a financial advisor. I am not a money advisor. So please make sure that whatever decisions you make them based on your own personal experience. But also, if you need help with anything to do with money, to do with finances, please make sure you speak to a professional, because I am not a professional in this field, but this is just my life experience and what I be going through and what I'm learning and what I'm reading about every single day. But yes, so anyway, credit score. So what exactly is a credit score to start off with? Let me just give you some basic definitions for what a credit score is. So credit score is a numerical value that allows lenders to see how risky you are as a person for them to lend you money. For example, it could be a loan, it could be some sort of credit, it could be a credit card, it could be a mortgage. Like, that stuff is really, really important when it comes to your credit score. Basically, the higher the number, the better it is for you in order to obtain credit. So people will see you as able to manage your money a lot better. You're able to manage your credit a lot better. So the higher the number, the better. A good credit score means that you have a better chance of obtaining credit at good interest, as well as having better credit limits. I will show you an example of what I'm talking about a little bit later on in the video. Having a credit score is very, very important. This is something when I was 18 years old, I was starting uni, I knew nothing about. I didn't know what impact it would have on me 9-10 years later. Had I known, I definitely would have managed my money a lot better, managed my credit a lot better. Like, I remember at uni, when you go to uni, these banks just offer you credit cards that offer you like overdrafts without even thinking about it. You being 18 and excited, you just starting the rest of your life. You don't know what exactly how that is going to impact you. You just be like, yeah, you take that. Like, I remember I had an overdraft of like £2,000. Even like 2 to 3 years after uni, I still wasn't able to pay that back. But that's just how I was set up financially at that time. But I don't know how much that impacted my credit score, but I know that to some extent it did, because about 2 years after university, I was applying for car finance. And that's one thing that your credit score will affect you on, is if you're trying to get insurance or you're trying to get a car or you're trying to get some sort of finance. So yeah, I was trying to get a car on finance because I really, really needed a car at the time, but I couldn't afford a car. So obviously, you know, credit cards are available, like finance is available, let's try that. So I tried it, and all the places where my credit score, I'm assuming, wasn't good at the time, didn't allow me to take out car finance. But I managed to get a car on finance with some company, and my credit score at the time wasn't good, but I got a really expensive car. So the car was a £12,000 brand new car, and I managed to get that. So think about it, you've got bad credit or not the best credit, but they give you a car that in 4 years time you have to pay off in full. Like, you got to look at it this way. It's like they're thinking, okay, so maybe imagine she can't pay back in 4 years time, she's gonna have a lot of interest to pay on that car. It's almost like sometimes they try and trick you. Now, I'm not saying all companies do this, I'm not saying that's the case, but it sometimes feels like that. Sometimes I feel like credit cards are a con, but this is a con that we in this England we have to deal with, because how else are you meant to sort of prove that you've got some sort of credit history without having a credit card? Now, there is other ways that you can do that, but a lot of the time a credit card can help you do that if you're doing it properly. Like, remember, the money on a credit card is not your money. It's not an emergency fund. It's not free money. It's money that you have to pay back. And if you're not in a situation to be able to pay it back, you could get into a lot of problems. And that's why I say that with credit cards, people have to be very, very, very careful. I don't mess about when it comes to credit cards, but you're gonna laugh when I tell you my story. When it comes to credit cards, or credit scores, sorry, I found out that different lenders all have different structures and criteria on what they base your credit score on and what number it is out of, so the range. So I know that with Experian it's out of 999, and with Equifax I think it's out of 700, but there's different criteria on where you land on their ranges. That credit score is based on your credit report, and your credit report is basically based on your credit history, what you owe, what you've borrowed, what you've applied for, all the cards that you've opened, how often you've applied, and then if you make your payments on time. So there's a lot that goes into it. So if you apply for something, just know that somewhere it's going to be on file. Now there is sometimes when you apply for credit, it will tell you that this will not affect your credit score or your credit report. So it can do like a light search on your credit report just to see where you are. So it won't impact you in terms of, like, say you wanted to borrow something a little bit later on, it won't impact your score, but it might still come up on your credit report as that a search has been done under your name and under your credit history. The annoying thing about credit scores is the fact that lenders can't assess you without some sort of credit history. So in your head, if you're thinking, I have really good history, I don't need a credit card, I don't need some sort of credit report or credit score, then you're wrong, especially in England, and I'm guessing in America as well. You need a credit score to prove, or a credit report to prove that you've, or credit history, to prove that you can pay your what you borrow on time, and that you are reliable, that they see you as someone that they can pay back what they borrow. Being someone who pays rent isn't taken into account when it comes to credit scores, which is very, very annoying, because a lot of us in my age, those who haven't bought houses yet, we have been renting for a while, but that is not taken into account. It's almost like it has to be some other sort of credit that you've taken out, that you've paid back, that has to prove it, even though not having a mortgage sometimes can impact your credit score. But a lot of the time when you're renting, your payments can be a lot more than a mortgage. That is very annoying, but that is what it is. I think there's been people have made complaints in terms of, oh, like renters need to be able to prove their credit rating using the rent that they've been paying for years and years and years, which makes sense. So in the future, we'll see if that changes. But for now, if you're renting, that is not taken into account when it comes to your credit score. So having a good credit score influences the types of credit cards that you can get, the types of loans that you can get, the types of mortgages that you can get, the interest rates on those credits, on those mortgages that you can get. It affects what sort of finances you can get, such as car finance. It affects you if you're trying to get a mobile phone contract. It affects you if you're trying to rent out a property, and also if you're trying to get insurance, and this might also be trying to get the best deals on your utility bills. Having a good credit score, having a good credit history, and having some sort of credit report is very, very good for you, because it will just make your life easier in the long run. So I'm going to tell you now how me paying off £2,000 made my credit score drop. I'm going to go over to my whiteboard and just show you using the graph exactly how this happened. Now, how I ended up with 4 credit cards, guys, I cannot tell you, I cannot explain how I ended up with 4 credit cards, but it happened. Like, I've never been the type of person that will see a credit card as something that you use every day. That's not for me. How I ended up with 4 credit cards is just, I can't even remember. I wish I could remember so that I can tell you, but it's not something that I would recommend. But I'm going to show you now how having these 4 credit cards and so much credit on them and then paying one off actually affected my credit score. So here we go. Hold on. Hey guys, so I'm back. I've brought you over here to my beautiful red kitchen to show you my whiteboard, and this is where I'm going to explain to you exactly what happened when I paid off a £2,000 credit card and my credit score dropped. Now, what works for me might not work for you, or what happened to me might not necessarily happen to you, but this is just an example of if you are thinking about maybe, oh, I'm going to pay off my debt and then my credit score is going to increase. It might not. As I've mentioned, I had 4 different credit cards. So I had credit card 1, 2, 3, and 4 here. My first credit card, which was my oldest credit card, allowed me to have a credit limit of £7,500. So the credit limit that you have on a credit card is basically how much you can use of that credit card. Obviously, don't go over it, but it's basically how much of it that you're allowed to use. So let me just give you some definitions again. So total credit, as I've said, is how much allowance you're allowed on a credit card that is available for you to use. Your credit utilization is how much of the money that you're allowed to use that you're actually using. So what percentage of your total credit are you using from the money that you're allowed to use? So for example, if you've got £1,000 on a credit card, if you're using £200 of that credit, that means you are using 20% of your whole credit that you're allowed to use. So I had £7,500 on my first card, which was also the oldest credit card that I had. I'd had that for, I think I've had it for years, and I still have it now. It's got £7,500 credit limit. So obviously over time, it went from, I think usually start from £1,200 credit, and then that increased to £7,500 because they do these promotional offers over time. You can choose to say no to the credit increase, or you can say yes. But I knew that I was going to potentially keep this card for a long time, so I just said yes for the future if I ever needed it. Wasn't planning on having these other three, but it happened. So on my second credit card, I had £2,000 that I was allowed to use. That was my credit limit on that one. My third credit card, I had £3,000, which is my credit limit that I was allowed to use on that one. So as we go this way, these cards are getting newer and newer and newer. So the £1,500 was my newest credit card, and that allowed me to use a credit limit of up to £1,500. When I add the total of how much credit I'm allowed to use on all these credit cards, it came up to £14,000. That is 100% of how much credit I have available. So in my first credit card, which was £7,500, I was using £3,500. Now, for the purpose of this video, this £3,500 wasn't actually my debt. I'm not going to go into the whole why it wasn't my debt thing. This is a personal choice that I made. But if I wasn't using this £3,500 in that credit card, this utilization would be 0%. I wouldn't be using any of this right now. Sorry, this was June. It was £3,500 being used on that credit card. And then on my second credit card, which was the £2,000 credit card, I was basically using the whole credit limit, 100%. On my third credit card, I was also using the whole credit amount, which is £3,000. Again, don't do as I do. On my fourth credit card, I had paid it off, and the reason I paid that off in June was because we were meant to go away to Philippines this year, and I paid for my flights and everything else on this credit card. So we obviously didn't go, and that money got paid back. So in June, this credit card was paid off in full, so I didn't owe anything on that credit card, which was a bonus. So as I've said, I was using £3,500 on credit card 1, £2,000 on credit card 2, and £3,000 on credit card 3. So the total that I was using out of the £14,000 that I was allowed to use was £8,500. And out of that £14,000, which is 100% of my credit, I was using 60% by using up £8,500 of that credit. So 60% is quite a high credit utilization. You want to keep your credit utilization below 25%, below 30%. That's better, but 30% and above, 25% and above is quite a high credit utilization score, and it will have an impact on your credit score. So as I've mentioned, this £3,500 was not my debt, but because it's in my name, it's my debt at the end of the day. They're not going to chase up the person that's got the credit on here, they're going to chase up me because my name is on it. If I didn't have that £3,500 owed on there, my credit utilization score would be 35%. I would only be using 35% of my available credit, but because I had that on there, it was 60%. So again, you can see why using too much of your credit increases how much of it you're using, which basically kind of looks like I don't want to use the word desperate. I wouldn't say that you look desperate, but you're using quite a lot. It's almost as if you don't have any other income to help you sort of deal with your debt, to manage your money better. That's what sometimes it may look like. Now, not necessarily in that specific way, but that's how it can look. What had happened was in June, I paid off this £2,000 credit card, and I actually closed my account. So I closed my account, and I think that is what affected my credit score quite a lot. So I went from having a credit limit of £14,000 to having a credit limit of now £12,000. I was now using £6,500 out of £12,000 of my total credit, and that made it so that I was using 54% of my credit utilization. Now, as you can see, 54% is slightly higher than 60%, but it's still quite high. But also, I closed my credit card account, as I said. If 2 was paid and left open, my credit utilization would have been 46%. So remember that. If I had left it open, it would have been 46% instead of 54%. But I closed it, decreasing my total credit, credit, instead of leaving it open, keeping my credit limit as £14,000 and only having a utilization score of 46%. So that had a major impact on my credit score at that time. So in July, when I got my credit score had dropped and it went down to 600 and something out of 999. And another thing that I think definitely impacted the fact that my credit score went down was because credit card 2 was one of my oldest credit cards on my credit history. So the age of your credits and the age of your credit cards or your history has an impact on your credit score. So the longer you have something showing that you can obviously pay it back on time will affect your credit scores. Obviously you don't want to have too many, but the longer you have something, the better it is for you. But opening new credit cards in a short space of time will probably have more of a negative impact on your credit score than having something that's been long term that you pay back every single time. So that's one thing to remember. So basically what happened was I had a £2,000 credit, I paid it off, closed my credit card, and because it was one of my oldest credit cards and also reducing my overall credit limit, that impacted my credit score from 700 and something out of 999 to 600 and something out of 999. Now over the last 6 months or so, I've been working so hard on building my credit score, but also over the last year prior to this happening, I was working so hard on building my credit score, but I didn't know that actually paying off debt like that and then closing it would have an impact. But that's something that I've learned, and I wanted to share that with people out there. Sometimes paying off your debt, great thing, but if you've got a credit card and you just close your credit card account, might not always be the best option. Now if you've got loads of different credit cards, it might be okay, but for example, say I was paying this off and I was thinking in a month's time I'm gonna apply for a mortgage. This would have had such a detrimental effect on my credit score, and I potentially maybe would have not been allowed to take out a mortgage because it affected my credit score. So I think it's important to know that if you are gonna close a credit card, make sure that you're smart about it. Make sure that you're smart about your timings when you apply for credit, when you close your credit accounts, and then don't apply for too much credit. I am going to talk in this video right after this on how you can actually build your credit score. So I hope that's clear and I hope you understand what actually happened here. So yeah, I'll see you guys in a sec. Hey, I'm back. So I'm gonna give you guys some quick tips or some quick tips on how you can boost your credit score. Now I've got to write them down because I want to give you guys like good facts and not just stuff that I'm trying to remember. Make sure that you're on the electoral roll. So basically you need to be registered to vote. That looks really good for your credit report, and it also helps build your credit score. Make sure that if you do have a credit card or you've got any type of credit, that you always pay in full every single month, and don't ever default or be late on paying your credit or paying your credit cards off. Make sure that all the information held on your credit report is actually correct. So you want to be checking your credit report maybe on a monthly basis, because that way you can see exactly what is on your report, and if anything needs changing, then you can raise a request for that to be changed, because having information on there that isn't quite correct can affect your credit score negatively. So basically check if you're linked to people that you shouldn't be linked to. Don't apply for too much credit, especially if you already have debt that you need to clear. I would recommend you clear your debt first, and then if you want to apply for credit, apply then. But also don't over apply for credit, because then it looks like your money management isn't very good. It almost looks like I said, it almost looks like you're desperate and you can't actually pay it from your own income, but you have to borrow in order to pay. So it doesn't look very good. One other thing that can help boost your credit score is not moving around a lot. If you can manage not to move around a lot, don't move around a lot, because it's better to be in one place so that they can actually keep up with you. If the government wanted to find you tomorrow, they'll find you tomorrow. So yeah, not moving around a lot helps build your credit score. Keep your credit utilization low. Like I've mentioned before, try and keep it below 25%, below 30%. Any more than that will start to impact your credit score, because it looks like, again, you can't manage your money. You need to use more money than you really should be using. Make sure that you have enough funds to clear your direct debits every single month or whenever your direct debits are due. Before you apply for some sort of credit, for a loan, for a credit card, make sure that you check your eligibility for applying for this credit. Is it going to impact your credit score in a negative way or in a positive way? And do you actually even have a chance to obtain this credit? So there is ways that you can check and do a light search on your credit score or credit report without it actually impacting your credit score. So make sure that you research that before you fully apply for credit, which will then put a stamp on your credit report, and it will actually affect your credit score. If you're going to apply for credit, make sure that you spread out your applications. And I most certainly, if you're thinking of buying a house, I most certainly would not be applying for any type of credit in the 3 to 6 months leading up to you applying for that mortgage, because most likely it will have an impact on your credit score, and you don't want to get rejected and then have to wait another 6 months before you can build up your credit score. Avoid cash withdrawals on a credit card, because that literally just looks like poor money habits, poor money management. And also, your credit card is not your debit card, it's not your money, it's not your emergency fund. So be careful how you're using your credit card. There is smart ways to use a credit card, and there is very unsmart ways to use a credit card. Is unsmart a word? But there's some very silly ways of using credit cards. I am not the type of person that will use a credit card willy-nilly. For me, especially over the last year, it's literally just to build up my credit score. As soon as I can, I will be potentially closing some of these newer accounts. I'm happy to keep my older account, because you never really know, sometimes you might need to go into a credit card, and I like to have a credit card if, for example, you're going on holiday and something goes wrong. It's easier for you to claim back that money than if you did it on a debit card. This is exactly what happened this year actually, and I'm glad I put it on a credit card because I was able to get it back. So there is smart ways to use a credit card, smart ways to utilize your credit card, to spend on your credit card, but to also pay back in full. But if you're not smart about how you're using your credit card, it's a very, very sure way and easy way to get into debt. So please be careful with how you use your credit cards. But again, I'm no financial advisor, I'm not a money advisor. This is just my experience, and I'm just sharing the word, spreading the word. So I hope you enjoyed that video. I apologize if it's going to be a little bit long. I'm going to try and break it down, shorten it down. Oh, sorry, there was a fly. Shorten it down as much as I can. Please make sure you subscribe right here, and make sure that you share, and please make sure that you like. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that was helpful, and I'll see you guys on my next video. Well, I'll use the book today.